Hello, Denise. I miss
Hi.
you. It's been so long.
It has been a while. I miss you. Eric is here. He's very playful right now. He says, "Hi, Mama, I love you." He's making me laugh. He's very playful.
Now hi, my lovely boy. I love you. And you're splashing around in water, I understand, because we are going to cover the very special topic of water. Water's kind of different. And well, you know what? I just want to start out with that. What is the thing about water, Eric?
Um, he's showing me, he's playing with the water, and he's able to manipulate it to where he's like holding water in between both hands and just playing with it and stuff. Um, he says water is what we're made of, with the water in us. The He's showing me how everything controls the water within us and with the planet. And he says water's just very healing, he's saying. And he goes, it's because of how our body responds to the water. He says, just like they say, drink water, keep yourself hydrated. People who don't have enough water, or people that have too much. But he says there's a balance. He's showing me how there's a balance of fluid within us that keeps us operating, like, I guess, he makes me feel like where we're more just balanced, is how he's saying it.
Yeah, I mean, the water is really important for the chemical equations going on, the biochemical equations going on in our bodies to work, for one thing.
And because he showed me it keeps us balanced
Yeah.
in everything. And he says, and that's why it's important to make sure you get um, healthy water, is what he's saying. And he says clean, but when he says clean, he's talking about healthy water, because you have to be careful about some of the water you digest, and like what the containers it's
Oh,
in,
yeah.
and just
The
stuff like that.
bifidals. Yeah.
Yeah, and he says that's why it's so important, that in other parts of the world where clean water is so important, because they're not able to um, balance themselves, and balancing themselves helps fight off, he says, infections, erosion, and I
Oh,
don't know what
yeah.
he means by erosion, but he just says erosion. And he says, and it just heals. It just heals.
Yeah, well, probably if you don't have enough water, then you get this desertification, not enough trees and grasslands, etc., to stop erosion from taking off. Should we take? Is water grounding? Does it ground us?
He said, "Oh, he said very much so, very much so. Yes, it's very." He said that's one of the key elements of grounding. Is that he says, he's showing me water is a very good grounding, because it kind of like, and he showed me like if you get splashed in the face, you're like, look, it kind of grabs your attention.
Yeah.
Um, he showed me like that's one of the reasons why they spray water. Like he showed me the boxers, on them, is to like bring them to. It helps bring them, makes them more coherent, I guess, is what he's referring to.
Yeah,
But
it's the anti-concussion drug.
okay, and he's telling me that it's very grounding. It's that's why there's such a love, why people always want to go to the water. And when he's saying the water, he's showing me like bodies of water, and people. He's laughing. He goes, "Did you ever see a fist fight in water, like at the beach
No.
or the lake?" He's showing me, and I mean, I personally haven't, but I'm sure there has been one. But
And it'd be like water features in our yards, like the sound of fountains. I mean, the sound of water. It's just incredible how important it is to our lives. Now, I believe in the aquatic ape theory. I think that we used to be arboreal, I mean, tree dwelling apes, but then I guess the savanna lands came and replaced the forest. And so we had to go run to or crawl to like bodies of water, and that's how why we are bipedal, because we had to stand up in water. It was easier to stand up in water. That's why our nose goes down instead of out like gorillas. That's why the hairs, the fine hairs on our back, are the water flow kind of thing. That's why we have hair on top of our head, but very little hair other places. So, is that part of what connects us to water as human beings?
He says, he goes, very good, Mom, very good. He says, you've done your homework.
All that in a bag of chips.
He's like, very good. He said, yes. And I'm like, listening, as you were talking, he's telling me, yes, yes. And I found that fascinating. He said, yes, but he says, you got to remember too, is we're also, when you're carried in the womb, you're also carried in water and a fluid.
Yes.
And that's why he says it's becoming even more popular now, or for people to birth into water.
Yes.
Because it's a smoother transition and it's not so rough. And he says, but he said, yes, he says, you definitely he says, you're right about what you were saying. And I find that fascinating. I didn't even know any of that. And he said,
The
yes.
aquatic ape theory. Oh, watch
Yes.
the TED talk from that lady. Is a little old lady. She's hilarious. Now, should we be drinking alkalinized water? I read a lot about that. I mean, what type of water should we be drinking?
He says the alkaline water, he says, is good, but he says there's other ways you can do that yourself without purchasing it that way.
Yeah.
And he says, yes, and he says the reason being is because of, and he's showing me the water out of the sink or out of the hose isn't the same. It's just not the same. And he's not going to go into how many years ago or whatever. He says everybody knows it's not the same.
No.
So you do have to add to it. And when he says that, I'm sitting there going, well, to me, I just think that the tap water and the hose water doesn't scare me. And he says, but there are what people say, there's chemicals, there's stuff in it. So that's why, and that takes away from what our body needs. So that's why it's good to have water that's alkaline.
Just put a little sodium bicarbonate in it or something?
Yeah.
Not too much. You want sodium overload. Is that what you do?
Correct. Well, he said yes, but he's also showing me, he's telling me even what my partner does. She puts a little bit of baking soda in it, but she buys the organic baking soda. And I think she puts 1/4 of a teaspoon in, I don't know. I know that it's in a container that holds a full bottle of wine. So however that is.
Like 750 cc's.
Yeah. And she.
I know my wine.
But she says she can tell a huge difference.
Wow.
A huge difference. And she even sweats now, and she died. She knew I was telling this on, but she didn't.
Nobody tell her. Nobody's gonna know. Nobody.
But Erik is saying yes. That's another way. He says, but there are other ways also to do things, and he's showing me like how people put some vegetables in their waters, and he's showing me like cucumbers or lemons or that kind of stuff. It makes a difference. But he says, but you also have to be mindful of what's in your tap water, because there's a lot of chemicals, and he's telling me bleach is in the water, or chlorine or something, or bleach.
Wow. I bet.
that smell. He's having me smell. But he says, he goes, you can, he says, there's a lot of places that will test your water for free.
Oh, wow.
And you can just see what it is. But he said, yeah, there's a lot. But he says, you can also he says, you can put your water outside. He showed me and let the sun energize it.
Oh.
And he says there is stuff to it about putting your water out during full moons and stuff like that, you know. He's showing me you do want to cover it up though because of the bugs or whatever.
Oh, well, that's protein, dude. You just did floss afterwards.
Floss afterwards, yeah.
All right, so what about like smart water and some of these vitamin waters and all that stuff? I know you can sort of make an equivalent yourself, but like a smart water, which basically has, I think, electrolytes, a little bit of electrolytes in it, is that a good thing? Or is it silly?
He says it's, you know, he says these are things that make you feel good. So yes, it's good for you because it makes you feel good. But he's also saying you got to be careful of what it's packaged in because
Oh,
what
yeah.
it's packaged in cancels out everything.
Yeah. The biphenyl, whatever's.
So he's making me feel like if it's packaged in plastic, it cancels out because when it gets heated up.
Any kind of plastic?
He's telling me, he's showing me pretty much, he showed me some kind of plastic that's kind of green or whatever. I don't know what that is. He showed me there's some that are plastic that are in green.
And those are good? Those are okay?
Yeah. But he says, but you know, these waters, like, and he's showing me the word, I'm not going to say the brand name, but they're pretty popular brands that you can buy at Sam's or Costco's or other stores. He says those sit outside, and he says those kind of take out what they think. He says there's no regulations on bottled water.
Yeah, I mean, they get heated up inside of a warehouse. What happens, you know? I mean, what sort of chemicals leach out from the packaging into the water?
Yeah, and he says, and he goes, and you digest that.
Yeah. So we should just do like osmotic, what do you call it? Just osmosis, the one that is.
That's what he's saying.
What do you call it?
Osmosis, or where it's
reverse osmosis water.
Yes, because he showed me the system. Like you can get one of those put on your in your own faucet or whatever.
What about like the pure PUR that kind of system? Does that take away a lot of the bad stuff?
He says it helps. It's not 100%. He said it helps, you know. But he says, he's telling me, but if it makes you feel good and you feel comfortable with it, he says, you know, it's okay. He says it's kind of hard to be 100%
right,
get the purest and the best because just of how our environment is.
As a doctor, I would say be careful about carbonated waters like club soda because they have a relatively high sodium content in it. And I think LaCroix probably does not, but some of them do. You have to be careful with that. All right, let's talk about some of the weird spiritual aspects of water. I mean, water is just, it's different. For example, when it's one of the few things that when you freeze it, it encompasses a bigger volume. And you know, it has all the 3 different states and you know, like from gas and solid, etc. Does water have consciousness?
He said very much so.
Well, let's talk
about
that.
He showed me that's like when he was doing the water like that. He showed me there's a consciousness within that water. He said very much so. It has a consciousness. He said yes. He said everything has a consciousness, and he's showing me how you can even he's showing me how like you can talk to the water. I want to say meditate, but he's saying how you can talk to the water and 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 ask the water to bring all the goodness to you, the nourishment, or not just you personally, but like when you're watering the plant life,
Oh yeah.
or he showed me how there are people that get out when it rains. They do like ceremonies to thank the water, the rains from coming. And I don't feel like he's just talking like Native American people. I feel like the way he showed me, there are people that in other parts of the world that do like a meditation or a ceremony, more of a ceremony type feel. He's saying that of appreciation for this water. And they're doing this, they're talking to the water. They're thanking the water for what it's doing and nourishing or whatever the water is bringing to them or for them. But he said, yes, water has consciousness. And he's telling me that the water is glad that you asked about the consciousness, because so many people don't even realize that. And when he's saying that, I'm thinking, oh my God, sometimes when I leave the sink running and I'm like dumping something in the trash and I just leave it running, and I'm like, now I'm going to be like more conscious of that. And he
No,
says,
I'm the same way. It's like ever since I watched this Barney thing, where's the song like "Don't leave the water running when you're brushing your teeth." Oh God, I don't want to disappoint Barney. So yeah, not doing it. All right, so the Japanese dude with the thought experiments, Masuro Imoto, he would give water with rice in it or whatever thoughts, different types of thought, like eat bad thoughts or just neglect the the water rice combination, or give it loving thoughts, and it made a huge difference. So thought, I guess, can influence water to some degree.
he said, yes, because the water is the water is a vibration also. So when you send out those thoughts to water, you're connecting with the water and you're sending that out there. And so yes, so it's he said yes. He's showing me you you can put really good loving thoughts into the water and drink it and just feel like you've had the best hug or whatever, or the best drink you've ever had in your life. Or you can put out ugly thoughts or whatever your thoughts are. And he says, and the water's going to taste horrible to you. And you could, and two different people can be drinking the same water, and one person has a different experience.
Yeah, because their thoughts are different.
Yes, because it's the energy that you put into it, because our thoughts are energy, it's vibrational, and it gets put into the water, and water's vibrational. And he makes me feel like, and I don't, he makes me feel like water is a very feminine type energy, is what he's making.
Well, we do get our water bloating. Okay. Well, tell me about that then.
He's showing me how the feminine energy, and he's showed me it's both, but the feminine, I feel more of a feminine flair to it. And I don't mean a prissiness type, it's just the gentleness from it. But he says that, the water is here to nurture us, to heal us, to give us life, to give us, he showed me, give us food, to it gives us joy, it gives us pleasure. Water does everything for us. It provides everything. Water is just extreme. And he's shown me how the nurturing part of this water is the feminine energy that I'm feeling, because it is very nurturing. It's of all kinds of water, whether it's coming from the sky or the hose. I mean, just or anything.
But maybe that's why people like I prefer baths, like bubble baths. It's like nurturing. You're just wallowing in this feminine fluid. Ooh, that sounds kind of gross. Whatever.
He said, he's telling me I'm going to leave it alone, Denise. Thank you.
Please do.
And, but he said yes, because when you get into that water, he says, your thought is already going and you're going into this bathtub to soak, and this energy is the water in itself is just hugging you, like it's like nurturing your body, and you're able to absorb it, because the water is not just making your skin wet. He's showing me you absorb that through your skin, and while you're absorbing that through your skin, it's feeding all the other little cells and other parts that are going on in our body that I have no idea what it is. But it's, to me, I always think of our body inside. It's like a whole nother city of entities.
Oh, it is. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The hierarchy is fascinating.
Yes, and he's just showing me how when that water seeps in there, how they're just going on about and doing their thing. So it's kind of like they're able to organize their whole town in there the way they want it organized, because they're getting what they need, and that's why we feel so good in that water, because it's supplying that. And he says it's just, and it's making everything connect. And he says it's like people feel, he says, like people that drink a lot and the next day they just want to drink a bunch of water. He says it's because their body, and he's telling me this village inside is saying, okay, we need this, we need that. It's like making a grocery list, but our body is saying this is what we need and stuff. That's fascinating, Erik. Yeah.
So, I feel like I could channel better when I'm in the bathtub.
He says you can. He says you can, and more people are able to channel, and he's laughing about, but more people are more fluid with their channeling, because
fluid, of course.
I know. And he says because they're, he says because you're grounded in there, because you're in that energy of that. And he says,
yeah,
it's a familiar feeling to you, and there's a safetyness in it.
It's like being in utero again, in the womb.
He says that yeah. He says, yeah, and it's just, he goes, everybody just wants to be by water. Everybody, regardless if they live by the water or they don't live by the water. Everybody wants to be by water.
Yeah, beauty bath, take me away, man. I want to be in the Cayman Islands with the Corona and one. I mean, of course. I mean, absolutely. All right, yes. So does it matter what kind of water you drink if you set an intention that it's going to do you good, or give it some sort of appreciation or bless the water? I mean, I wouldn't, take a straw in sewage or anything, but I mean, if you put the intention that it's going to be beneficial.
Erik says that works. And he says, if you really are truly vibrationally believing what you're saying, he said yes, because the water is picking up on that vibration.
Yeah, but you really have to believe it.
You have to, it's kind of, you have to know that, yes, by me putting this in here, this is going to take care of it and respond to your vibration. And he says, more and more people are catching on to what the vibration is, as opposed to lip service.
Yeah.
But he said, it definitely can do that. Yeah, he said yes.
Is water most beneficial at a certain state? Chilled is found in nature. Does freezing or boiling affect it? In other words, this guy's a person saying, is the water in coffee less beneficial than iced water, or anything? I mean, is there a certain state that's better, and certain states that we need to avoid?
Well, he says, this is what he's saying about the ice water and the coffee. You have other chemicals in with the coffee, with
Yeah.
the water that's with the coffee. So, so that's, you got to take that into consideration.
Yes.
And as opposed to ice water, he's he says there is something to, um, he says a lot of in the Asian culture, he's saying, where they drink it room temperature. They don't drink ice water because of how it is with your body. But he says, if you feel good though, drinking ice water, and that's what makes you like, this is so good. He says, then drink it.
I know when I went to Europe as a little kid, it's like, you want an ice cube in your water? Oh my God, you're going to die! Like,
Yeah, and yeah, I've had people. I've had an acupuncturist tell me that my body was hot and I needed to drink tap water or warm water. Of course, I'm like, no. But he, and they could tell by your tongue or something like that. But he's saying he goes, it's all up here. We tell ourselves so many things. And he said, but there's nothing that takes the place of pure water.
yeah.
And he says, if you go to the mountains and you drink that water coming off of the mountain, that water is going to taste much different
As
than it.
long as the goats are not like upstream pissing in it, giving you
Yeah,
giardia and coccidia or whatever, that's fine.
yeah, yeah,
You gotta go to the very top.
yeah. But he
I'm,
says,
I'm kidding.
but their water is very different. He says that it just depends on where you're getting it, and he says, um, he's saying, Denise, a lot has to do with your intent and
Yeah.
how you feel about everything. He says that plays a big part, because you do get people who are paranoid about this and that, and I agree with him, because sometimes I can get myself on a tangent and then I'm like,
Oh,
I don't know what
me
to do,
too.
and
Yeah.
then I'm just like, forget it all.
Yeah, forget it. We're eternal beings. What's the worst that can happen? Okay, so do other alien races have something that is not water but is equivalent in the way we've been talking about?
When he said that, he said, we are all, and he says, we are all made from some form of water.
Water, H2O water, right?
Yes, of
Wait,
some
all
form.
even alien for?
He says all. This is what he said,
Wow.
all. We are all made from some form of water. That is part of our ingredients in making us. And that is one of the things that he's telling me that like we have in common. Um, he said yes. He's telling me yes. There's, I don't know if other beings drink water like we do or put so much emphasis on water as we do, but he is telling me that it's part of the ingredients of
Of
how,
life. Yeah.
yeah, how everybody is made. And he said that goes back to how we're all connected also.
Oh, yeah. Wow. So, but
Hmm.
there's probably some maybe there are life forms that are not carbon based. Maybe they're silicone based or something. Do they are there? And if so, do they still need H2O?
He says not all are like carbon based, like how people are going to think, how we think it is. But he says, and he says they don't need water. They don't need water like we do.
Oh,
It's not, but
not
there
as
is,
much or not at all?
um,
I mean, maybe they want sulfuric acid running through their veins. I don't know.
He makes
I
me
wouldn't.
feel like their water is, on some level, water is essential to them. I don't know if it, but he doesn't. He makes me feel like it's not, like they're not required to drink 8 bottles
Ah,
of water a day.
okay. Yeah.
But he's telling me that he says all, um, have that same ingredient in them as water. So
Okay.
I don't know. They may not have as much. The moon may not affect them like it affects
Yeah.
us, and they may not have the tides on their planet or whatever. Um, but it it does. But the water is a part of them.
Okay.
Yeah, he's showing me the vibration of
Interesting.
that.
Well, is
Mhm.
there anything we can do or mix with water that we haven't tried that would benefit us or the plants that we feed, the animals that we give water to? I mean, what is your advice, Eric? Got some water. I need it for myself, my dog, plants. What do we do besides saying thank you, fluid one?
Eric's joking right along with you.
Of course he
um,
is.
he, um, he, you know, he he's showing me that he keeps saying it's about having respect for it, and then with the water, he's saying, um, we should really create. He says one of the things is we try to grow things or try to have things in our town or state or whatever that are not, um, this isn't where they're from, like
Oh
bringing
yeah,
bringing a palm tree in
non-native.
Arizona.
Yes.
Yeah, native is what he
Yeah,
said.
yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
he said if we would stop doing that,
Yeah.
he's showing me that that water wouldn't have to work so hard,
Hmm.
because everything is balanced on what
Yeah.
grows where and what's supposed to be where. So they're all balanced. And he
Yeah.
says, and they don't worry about, are they going to have enough water?
Okay. So, uh, quarter of a teaspoon and 750 of bicarb in 750 cc's of water, right? Is there anything else we need to add, either substance wise or thought wise or emotion wise or anything to the water we drink or that we feed to other life forms?
He said, give it your blessings. He said, there's always, he says, there is something, where he showed me now where people are putting crystals in a bottle in the water, and that crystal's energizing that. He says that does, that does put stuff into the water, the
Ah,
energies and
yeah.
stuff. He says
Oh,
it.
should we put certain crystals in water?
He said, it's whatever one that makes you feel good. But he's showing me more of like quartz type type crystals in there.
Yeah, okay.
And the way he's showing me, I feel like it's more, the closer to the raw form, the better.
Oh, okay.
Because he's showing me how we kind of strip away things from it once we get it real nice and
Mm,
polished.
yeah.
Um, I'm asking her, how about a diamond? And he said,
Yeah. Well, I heard that if you put a penny or some pennies in water and hang it on your door frame, that flies will not enter your house.
He was showing me that
That's
earlier. That he was showing me that earlier. I didn't know
yeah.
what that was, but he
That's
was
so
showing me
weird.
that. But I was like, but but he said yes, that's true. Um, and I'm asking him why that's true. But I want to answer your question. But he's saying, but people are putting crystals, in there, and he's saying, if your intent is to put something in there because it's making that feels good to you, he says, then you need to put that in there because that makes a huge difference. People
Ah,
telling me
yeah.
people do Reiki on their water, and he goes,
Oh,
that
wow.
that makes a huge difference,
That'd be
and
cool to make a water company with beautiful reverse osmosis water, Reiki infused. Put a little CBD oil just in case.
wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah. So, where is the closest planet to us that has plentiful water?
When you said that, he's telling me, um, he's showing me Mars has water on it. He's showing me that the moon has water on it, but it's not as fluid as like this
Oh, yeah.
planet.
Yeah.
Um, he's showing me, uh, and I guess he's naming these because I may know them. He's showing me, he shows me that Venus has water on it. He says, and it's also been discovered that Saturn has water on it.
And it might not be surface water. It could be, filled out.
Correct. But he's showing me all the plant, but he's showing me all of them have water on it. And so when I asked him, and he even says, in some form or another, there's some fluid on with the sun even.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
and he's
Water on the sun? I can't imagine. It's so hot. It was.
that's I know, and but the way he showed me, and he says it's fluid, but I'm like, well, of course it's fluid, but I feel like he's showing me how there's water in the sun. There's water in,
Inside, maybe at the core. I don't know.
yeah, in the planet itself. There's sun, and he's showing me, not a bunch, but maybe it gets a lot of sun from the humidity, Eric.
I don't know. So deep in the sun somewhere.
There, he's showing me there's fluid in there. That
Okay.
there's water.
Fluid.
Yeah,
Okay. It's cool.
I don't know
All
if
right.
it's drinking water, but it's
Yeah.
water.
I'm not going to get close enough to figure it out. All right. So, are there any health advantages to living near the ocean or any other body of water for that matter?
He said yes and no. He said, yes, because the water, it is very healing. He says, and it doesn't matter if it's by what kind of water you live by, whether it's fresh
Yeah.
or salt. But he said yes, because especially when you can hear the water, because it's very calming.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. How much is the sound versus the actual water itself? The sound is for the ears, but I guess getting into the water would be the part where the actual water comes into play. But what do I know?
Well,
What do
he
you think?
said, and he's saying the reason being, he says, is because he's showing me like how the freshwater, when you go into these freshwater lakes, he's showing me how you're not just getting your skin wet. The water you're absorbing that water too. And he's showing me how that's just, it nourishes all the inside of the city that's within your body, as I call it. And it's helping that all to function well.
Mm.
Um, and you drink some of that water, whether it's fresh water or salt water.
Ugh, I don't want fish piss. But okay, go ahead.
um, and the salt water, he says the minerals from it, um, the
Yes.
salts
Yeah.
is so different from,
Yeah.
there's no comparison to that salt.
Mm.
And he says that in itself is very healing to the skin and very soothing. And he says, and people just feel so good after they go to the beach. He says there's some that don't like the sand or whatever, but it's just very healing. He says, now, of course, in the sound of the water, just the
Yes.
and the waves of the water, how it
And what
makes
does that do? Does that do something with one or more chakras? The sound of the waves? Yeah.
he says it just helps you to kind of center your thoughts so that things can start getting aligned. And
Ah.
also there's a safetyness. He keeps saying people feel safe in the water, and he says, and that's regardless if
Unless there's, jaws in there, but
yeah, he says but that's with it doesn't matter if you're ankle deep or not,
I know.
because he said some people don't like the water because they don't know how to swim, or they had a
Yeah.
bad experience, or something is a bleed through or something through another life.
Oh, yeah.
But he says but the sound itself, but it's being there in the water, and also feeling the elements from the water, even though you're not in the water getting wet.
Mm.
And he's telling me this goes for fresh and salt. You're still getting the elements from the water also. Your
Oh,
body's picking that up also.
okay. Interesting.
Because
So,
he's telling me it's kind of we're all connected to it, so we can't help but
yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, 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 no. So, um, we can heal water, right? So, I guess, so that does that mean we can heal the water in someone's body, or does water even need healing? This comes from a blog member, so I might not be doing it right.
Well, he says what I feel like Erik is saying, what that blog member wants to know is the water itself. The water, like in the open bodies of water and stuff like that, he says right now don't need healing. But the water within us, um, he says that doesn't necessarily need healing. He says that goes into our emotional state that needs with that. But he says you can heal water, and he's showing me, and I feel like this person may want to also know you can heal the water by your setting your intentions. And when he's showing me that, I feel like you can even go to the ocean and set your intentions of how you want the water to be. And because I guess because there's a lot of controversy, Erik, and he said, yeah, because of how the oceans are and stuff, and how people are polluting the lakes with their boats or
Yeah.
their aftermath, their paper products, I guess, or plastic products. But he says you can go out there and put your intention in there, and it will definitely help to heal the water. He says there are people out there now doing that, that are helping to heal the water. And that's why there's so much attention being brought about um, with the plastic products
Yeah.
in the oceans and stuff like that.
Exactly. Like that one that they make bracelets, which I donated to.
I have one of those.
Yeah, me too. So water is not only healing, but it also needs to be healed. Any other advice on how we can help our oceans?
Erik says the biggest thing is have respect for the water,
Yeah.
because he says, and with respect, you wouldn't, when you have respect for something, you treat it with love.
Yeah. All right. I only have three more quick questions, and we're almost out of time. So make them quick.
Okay.
I don't want to take too much of your time, Denise. But all right. So this one guy wants to know if water is actually the veil. He believes so. He says that he set up this Facebook group called "Water is the Veil." Um, he's posted information and videos about the special qualities of water. You guys need to check that out. Water's the veil. So he is also has personally found that water noise with its ultrasound capability is the best for carrying EVP messages, electronic voice phenomena messages. So what do you have to say to that, Erik?
Erik says that that last part is absolutely the truth.
The EVPs, but what about it being the veil then?
It's not the only thing Erik says, but it's a big part because water plays a big part in everything, in everything.
But the actual veil between us,
Everything,
is water a part of that?
From
Oh, sorry.
all, yeah, he says everything from this planet to other planets to other beings. We're all connected with the water.
Okay, so but that boundary between our world and your world, Erik, does it have anything to do with water?
He says yes. He's saying yes.
How so?
He says because he's as fluid as water.
Oh, okay.
He says he's as fluid as water. So, and when he's saying that, I'm asking him, is that why it's easy for people to see things while they're in the bathtub or at a lake? Or he says it has to do with because you're in a healing element and your brain kind of calms down. I feel like, and he says you're fluid, and he's fluid.
Erik, are you saying that water helps us get that fluidity that allows us to see across the veil, but is not the actual veil per se?
He
I mean, maybe we don't have the vocabulary to understand this, and that's fine.
And I have a short one. So he's telling me like we have the ability to know that there's the other side, but I just feel like we don't have the capabilities, or we're just not there to really be full on to the other side, or what people call heaven, whatever, like be over there like 100%.
Yeah.
But he says there are people that know how to move in and out of that fluid.
Well, how's water involved in that?
He says because of the movement. He says because the way he's showing me how. Yeah, that's what he's saying. So when he's telling me that, I'm going, okay, so I'm going to try that.
Yeah. All right, two quick ones, real quick. What's the main lesson we are to have learned by water scarcities in certain parts of the world, and what can be done? Oh, that's not a quick question, but go ahead. It's 6, sorry.
That's okay. He says, he's telling me the water scarcity is not really scarce. It's just that we think that it's scarce.
Yeah, scarcity is an illusion. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he says it's really there. And he says, and it brings up a lot of fear around the scarcity. Yeah. But he says, but there is a lack of water, of the availability of water, of what is that's free flowing is how we know in a lot of parts of the world. But there are places there that have water.
All right, so what lesson is there behind that?
He's showing me that it's about, he says working together. There's like learning to work
Oh, yeah, I
together.
thought that like a global cohesiveness to try
Yeah,
to work together to help these segments of population that water is, scarce. Overall, it's not scarce; it's abundant, but in those local areas. Okay,
yeah.
um, last two. I never drink. I almost never drink water. I don't know what it is. What is that? And a lot of people are like that. They don't drink water. It's boring. I don't know.
Because we get a taste of other flavors.
Yeah, but is it bad? I mean, it's not good to have your only fluid as the wetness of your whatever food and caffeine and things like that.
Well, he says true, but he tells me we don't need as much water as we think we do.
Oh, okay. I had a feeling, and we don't need as much food either. All right,
No.
so last question: can you get Masaru Emoto? He's on that side with you, Erik. Can you get a message from him just about water in general? What's the most important thing that he can tell us? And then that's it.
When you said that, Erik says to enjoy it.
Mm.
He said to enjoy it. And it's funny, Erik always, not always, but a lot of times in sessions where people have contacted me because of channeling Erik, Erik will pop in because they want him to, and so he's here. But he will always say, appreciate the physical things. And he always says, like the water on your hands when you're washing them.
Oh,
He
really?
always gives that analogy.
Wow.
Always, yes. And when he said that, and he just said to appreciate it, he's sitting there um, to appreciate it. Like it's almost, Erik is telling me that I get the feeling from this person, Erik is saying, we don't appreciate the water, like we take it for
Yes.
granted.
We,
Like we flush the toilet every time we pee or something, and it's like
yeah,
have respect is what,
exactly.
but have appreciation for this.
So you're not just wanting us to wash our hands so we won't get pinworms, right?
No, he's because
I'm kidding.
no, Erik always uses that analogy, like enjoy the.
That's so important. And so Emoto is saying the same thing. That's his message.
Yes.
Enjoy and respect and bless and don't take it for granted.
Yeah, like and the way they're saying this, I feel like it's like when I go to the grocery store and I'm buying produce, I always silently thank all the farmers
Yes.
and the people that pick the fruit, and I
Yeah.
thank them for giving me such an abundance to pick from, that I
Absolutely.
didn't have to climb on a ladder, 10-foot ladder or whatever. And so he's making me feel like the same with this water, like
Yeah.
really give thanks and appreciation, because water is consciousness. They're both telling me, and I feel like this man knew water had consciousness.
Yeah. Sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah, water
All right.
has
Well,
consciousness.
yeah. Anything else you want to say, Erik? Except I love you. I will say that to you.
Erik says he loves you. Erik's doing balloons, so filling them with water. So I feel like he's
Water balloons. Oh, we've had a lot of water balloon fights in our backyard.
yeah, he's doing that right now. He's just he says everybody just get out, and he's saying enjoy this water, enjoy this, but enjoy life. Erik is saying
Yeah.
enjoy life, enjoy life.
But put sunblock on, but reef safe. I worry about the sunblock that now is destroying reefs. So we have to work on that. All right. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. You guys check out Denise Ramon at deniseramon.com, which I'll put right here. Love you guys.
Love you. Erik says love you, Mama.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.